it's Whitney from WhitneyLauritsen.com, and welcome back to the EVG Venture channel, where I share my experiences and the lessons I've learned through running an online brand and being a content creator. Today, I am so excited about this topic because it's all about, well, there's a number of different themes here, but it's about being the master of your fate and focusing more on creating great content versus becoming successful or famous or well-known. And this is something that I think a lot of content creators really struggle with. So I'm excited to dive deep into that. A perfect example is today I focus so much on creating videos. You can see my equipment back there. I shot a couple videos that I've been wanting to do for a while, and it is so satisfying. So I'm focusing more on that accomplishment and the message that I'm sharing there in the video, and trying not to focus too much on how many people watch it, which is frankly something I think about a lot and I want to let go of because it's not serving me. I want to connect with the people that do watch versus worry about all the people that aren't watching. Can you relate to this? I'm sure you can. So the bullet points that I'm going to share with you today actually came from 2 email newsletters. So before I begin with that, I want to remind you of the importance of absorbing as much information as possible. Of course, I would love it if you just came to me for everything, but to be honest, so much of what I learn is from other people. It's not like I just magically get downloaded information. I spend a ton of time reading books, reading newsletters, like email newsletters that I'm subscribed to, listening to podcasts, and watching YouTube videos. And those 4 things, I also go to websites and check out what other people are doing. Sometimes I go to events or take online courses. Honestly, there's so many places. And what I want to do with this channel is actually summarize so much of what I'm learning so that if you don't feel like absorbing as much information as I do, you can get it all from me. But on the other hand, I do recommend that you learn and just surround yourself with as much information as possible, because that will help you move forward and get to those goals that you want the most of. So these 2 emails, I'm going to start with one, the first one that came from Paul Jarvis. I will link to him down below. He is phenomenal. He's also a vegan and just a really inspiring, knowledgeable entrepreneur. And he's very, very humble, which is something that I like a lot about him. And the title of his email was Being Successful versus Being Known. So I'm going to read directly from that email some of my favorite parts that I think are most valuable. He was talking about his own personal experiences a lot in this email, and at one point he said, I had no blog, no social media accounts, no forms of promotions, and I'll let you in on a little secret. I made about the same amount of money then as I do now that I have while I'm having an audience, I guess is what he's trying to say. So I found that so interesting, and it was really nice to hear that from somebody else. Basically, he's saying that his audience is actually not fully responsible for how much money he's had. It's more around his craft. And I think that can feel really relieving as a content creator, because sometimes we think that we're not achieving our goals because our audience isn't big enough yet. And so we end up focusing so much on growing our audience and less about honing in on our craft and doing what we really love, focusing in on that passion. Back to Paul's email. The next point he said was, a lot of times people confuse being known with being successful. In reality, though, one doesn't necessarily lead to the other. One thing, success or being known, isn't better than the other, just like one isn't required for the other. They're just 2 aspects of work that have somehow become linked in our minds. Sometimes they overlap, but they don't have to. It's also worth mentioning that as soon as someone becomes more of a megaphone than a maker, their skills start to slip. They're now removed from making because their time is spent talking about it instead of doing it. So the people we pay the most attention to may not even be the most talented. And the longer they're in the spotlight, the less connected to the craft they might be. These are such wise words, and they really resonate with me because, like I said, sometimes I become really absorbed in this idea of growing my audience and growing my online presence, where really your audience will come through you growing your craft and becoming a maker. And even if it doesn't grow that big, if you are fantastic of whatever it is that you're doing, that's ultimately the most satisfying and the most important thing. And that is going to serve whoever it is, however small your audience is. Back to Paul's email. The recognition you do or don't receive is mostly out of your control, which is nice to hear. But the effort and care you put into what you make is entirely within your control. That's where your focus should be. So I think sometimes it can feel really frustrating if we're not growing our audience as big as we want it to be, as fast as we want it to grow. And so it is relieving to know that it's not always within our control. Some people just go viral. Some people happen to have this stroke of luck, meet the right person, get mentioned so and so here. And that may happen to you at some point, but that's not necessarily in your control. So you can relax, focus on what is within your control, which is your craft. And the last point from Paul is you don't need to be famous to succeed. You do need to be good at what you do. Sometimes focusing entirely on that, on your craft, and connecting to a tiny number of the right people is all you need. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the next email comes from Erin Stuntland, which is someone that I'm new to. I recently subscribed to her newsletter, so I can't really tell you too much about her yet, except that I've been enjoying her newsletters, and I will link to her as well. Her email was titled, "I am the master of my fate." And it had a very similar note to Paul's. So the first point I wanted to start with was when she said, you start to wonder, oh, maybe I need to do this, that, or the other thing to feel/be successful. So we start to panic thinking that we're not doing enough, or we're doing it wrong, or we're doing the wrong thing. Her next point is, well, will this be the thing that moves me forward? This question really starts to weigh on you, particularly if you're starting to see other people succeeding at the thing you're contemplating doing. I feel that. I'm sure you can relate. It's frustrating sometimes when we see people that are similar to us in terms of our career, doing the things that we're not doing, and we wonder, well, they're successful. Do I need to do what they're doing in order to be successful? I feel this a lot, like Instagram especially. I see all these like Instagrammers with like 100,000 plus subscribers or followers, and I'm wondering, like, do my pictures have to look like theirs? Do I have to write the same captions, use the same hashtags? Is that the key to success? And it can feel really overwhelming sometimes. So what Erin recommends is to start by asking yourself the following questions, but not overthinking them. Number one, will this thing bring me joy or be fun to do? And number two, will this thing give me energy or drain my energy? That is huge too. I mean, really, we should be doing the things that are fun for us and that bring us joy. And we should be doing the things that give us energy versus the things that drain our energy. Sometimes we assume that being exhausted is the key to success, but really being exhausted just makes us less productive. She asked you to repeat after her this following phrase: my success and greatness do not depend on whether or not I do this one thing. So one more time. My success or greatness do not depend on whether or not I do this one thing. Does that help lift off some weight? It does for me. Okay, next from Erin. Your success and greatness do not hinge on one single decision. Have faith that your success and greatness is something that is built, cultivated, and grown over time. Your greatness is something that lives inside of you, and there will be many opportunities to cultivate it throughout your life. You are the master of your fate, and you are the captain of your soul. And lastly, there is no harm in trying something. Only then you will know for sure whether it is or isn't for you. Life really is a series of small choices that inform your next choices. No right or wrong here. I hope those words help you lift off some weight, feel less overwhelmed. I know when I read them, it felt like a sigh of relief. It felt very comforting from both Paul and Erin. It felt like they have been in the same place. They understand where I'm coming through from these struggles, and they're kind of saying, you know what, it's okay. focus on what you're doing, be great at what you're doing. Don't worry so much on what other people are doing, and don't be too attached to success and greatness and whether one thing is going to make or break you. I think when we are just focused on ourselves and being the best selves that we possibly can be, that's where the best things in life happen. And that's where the success relative to us happens. It's all relative, really. And I've realized over time through talking with other successful people that they don't feel necessarily like they're successful. They're still going after something else. They're still looking up to other people. They're basically in the same position, even if they have more followers or subscribers or more money than you do, we do, whoever. I think it's just always relative. We're always climbing, and that's really life. We don't want to reach some point and be done, because then life just becomes boring. We're always striving to be better. So focus on what's best for you, what's successful for you. Take away the stress of trying to have a certain number of audience and certain number of money, and just focus on what brings you joy, what gives you energy, and what you are best at. And I think ultimately that's going to give you the most richness in life. I would love to hear your thoughts about this subject matter and any other lessons related to this that you've learned, so please leave a comment. Are there any other people that you read newsletters from that you really enjoy, podcasts, websites, books that you've read recently? I'd love to have more resources from you. Speaking of which, I want to remind you about the creators community that I recently launched. This is that membership group for like-minded content creators, for people in the natural living space, to inspire each other, motivate each other, hold each other accountable, have that support. If what I read to you today is inspiring you, if you love learning from me and you want to connect with other like-minded people so you're not alone, be surrounded by people that are just going to help root for you and help you reach your goals. That's what the creators community is all about. I just launched it last month in July. August is the second month. We're coming up on our next meeting, which is on August 18th. We currently meet once a month and through Google Hangouts, and we just chat about what's going on, challenges, successes, questions. We help each other out. It's been amazing. If you want more access to me, it's a great place, but really it's all about the community. And we share resources like this. So I'll be sharing all of my favorite newsletter list, podcast, books, all of that there. There's a forum where you can talk to the other members, and it's just building bigger and bigger. This is my big focus with my business right now. I would love to have you involved if that sounds good to you. So I will leave a link down below, and I'll remind you of it pretty frequently here, because I would love to have you there. And I know sometimes you need to think about it, and maybe it's just not the right time, but whenever it is the right time, I will be welcoming you with open arms, because I believe in you, I support you, and I want to be more connected to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, that's also linked down below, and that'll alert you when these videos come out and when I have more words of wisdom to share with you on your journey. I would love to hear from you in the comment section, so let me know what resonates with you, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, all the best to you and your success with your online brand. Do whatever brings you joy, and everything else will fall into place. Bye.